Hello, Assalamualaikum. How are you all? In today's discussion, I'll discuss about the Bangladesh strategy in the sense of diplomatic affiliation and diplomatic strategies, diplomatic activities in the iteration of the pushback in our border. So, pushback in our border, it's not a very good thing. It's literally a bad thing. But I'm not the stakeholder to say about the matter. So I'm just saying about the matter from my own context, from my own satisfaction, from my own psychological dilemma. But as a nation state, Bangladesh should take the steps in stopping the pushback culture in our border. You know that pushback culture is literally prohibited according to our international law and international humanitarian law. Not only it is mentioned in our international humanitarian law, but also it is also prohibited in human rights law and in the legal practice and legal customs. So why I'm talking about the legal custom and the legal practice, because legal customary sense means for more than uncertainty period of time. It is also mentioned, it is also sophisticated principles of our international humanitarian law and humanitarian concepts. According to Article 14 of UN Charter, it is especially mentioned that every people means every people, he can be from different kinds of ideology, different kinds of satisfaction, different kinds of states, even he can be a human being. So every human being has the right to get the asylum from the third countries. So as a part of this, the Rohingya people, the Palestinian people, even the people who already live their country. These types of people have the right to get the asylum from another country. So this is the legal and practicable international principles according to the international convention and according to the different kinds of legal customs and ideological practice. But my question is that India totally denied the principles of pushback, principles of non-refoulement, which is mentioned in Article 33 of what should I say of Article 33 of Refugee Convention 1951. So, though Refugee Convention 1951 doesn't mention some of the codified principles, some of the codified ritualistic principles in 1951, and apart from this, in the year 1967, it is also mentioned some of the codified principles which is much more related, rational, and effective for developing and for achieving the rights of humanitarian perspective in our legal practice. You know that from the year 1982 to year 2026, more than 10 lakhs Rohingya, they came from the Rakhine state in Bangladesh. Even their life schedule is in dilemma, their life schedule in a process of non-humanitarian convention. But in that convention mechanism, Bangladesh government has lots of effective duties to protect their fundamental rights, to protect their human rights, even to protect their ideological rights. But I don't know they will be mentioned and they will be treated as a refugee according to the International Refugee Convention 1951. Because my question is crystal and clear, because the Rohingya people, they are not treated as the refugee in Bangladesh till now. So whenever they are not mentioning the refugee in Bangladesh, how they will become the part of the refugee convention, how they will get the access, get the opportunities from the refugee convention 1957 and the another convention 1967 refugee protocol. So my question is that is it possible to implement the fundamental rights, fundamental principles regarding the dignity matters, because every people has required life and dignity. So whenever you are not admitted the rights of the refugees, so you are not admitted the prospect of refugees in the context of Refugee Convention 1951, how will you mention, how you will implement the Refugee Conventional rules in the year 1951? So in that perspective, Bangladesh government, they have to take some authentic information about the Refugee Convention 1951, and as far as it possible, with a very short time, Bangladesh should admit the Refugee Convention 1951, because right now Bangladesh is not a developing country, Bangladesh is a development country. So as a development country, Bangladesh has lots of duties and effective rights over the refugees mentioned in international convention, which is called as the refugees. So on hand, Bangladesh will admit the refugee of Rohingya people. On the other hand, Bangladesh will also make pressure on the Indian government, because Indian government directly denied the rights of the refugees in the modern time. So this is not my duties to say about this matter over the refugee convention very soon, but my question is very crystal and clear. I would like to say about the more conceptualized laws and regulatory bodies activities in the future time. So we have been emphasized these types of practices from the very beginning of the Bangladeshi practice and the Bangladeshi context. So as far as it possible, we have to mention the codified rules of refugee convention, refugee rules, refugee activities. Otherwise, the refugee people, they will not implement, they will not get the fundamental rights as well as the human rights from the Bangladesh. Even you know that as a refugee, every refugee has 18 fundamental rights in practice, but Bangladesh government has failed to provide this type of fundamental rights because we have limited resource. Whenever we have limited resource, how will you maintain a huge amount of people at that same time without any kind of legal aid, without any kind of international aid from the international organization? So Bangladesh is not only the stakeholders to implement the refugee materials over the figure, and there are another stakeholders like different kinds of international organizations like UNHCR, IOM, International Organization of Migration. So these types of organizations will definitely come for to resolve the matter. They will come for to resolve the matter of a pushback problem, more particularly in the Indian border, because India is a very big country. They have the different ideology, different perspective, even the different diplomatic rules over the pushback systems. But they will fully violate the international convention, international conventional rules, which is mentioned in Article 14 of UN Charter, and definitely it is also mentioned in the Refugee Convention 1950 on. So while I'm talking about the matter of the principles of non-refoulement, in that perspective, Indian government, they will fully not follow the principles of non-refoulement in the matter of the Refugee Convention. So refugee matters has organized before 5 or 6 years ago in the year 2017. So in that time, our former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, they definitely took a very good incident over the matter. They just keep the asylum figure for the refugee people. They provided huge amount of fundamental rights, fundamental principles, or the more monetary balance over the refugee materials. But till now, the Indian government, they did not accept the refugee people as the refugee, and they did not accept the principles of non-refoulement. So most of the political philosophers says that it is not a very big things. You are followed the refugee convention, the refugee conventional route, but as a part of the jus cogens mentioned in Article 51 of the Vienna Convention Law of the Trade is 1951. So it is sophisticatedly mentioned that from the perspective of the jus cogens, you have to follow the international customs, international principles, which has been followed from the uncertain period of time. So I think that Bangladeshi government, they though they are not following the Refugee Convention 1951, but they have to follow the principles of non-refoulement as a strategy, as a practice of international humanitarian law, international human rights law, and Bangladeshi domestic laws. So otherwise, it is not established in Bangladesh of the refugee conventional right and the rights of the refugees with a very short time. So I'm not the legal philosopher. I have mentioned everything from the opinion of the international scholars. But I think that Bangladeshi government, they will take the strategy not for the development of the dying people, dying humanity, and who are definitely suffering from the pushback, who are definitely suffering from the economic concerns. So why pushback is literally prohibited according to the international law? Because whenever the person has been taken in the border of Bangladesh, then the first problem is that he is literally statelessness. So whenever the person is statelessness, how the Bangladeshi government will treat the person as the citizen of Bangladesh? Whenever he is not the citizen of Bangladesh, how the Bangladeshi government will follow the fundamental rights according to Article 32 of the Bangladeshi Constitution, according to Article 27 of Bangladeshi Constitution? No constitutional burden and implementation will not be follow up over the people who is statelessness. So first of all, Bangladeshi government, they have to provide the citizenship rights from the Citizenship Rights Act 1946 to the people, and at last the people will get the access from the fundamental principles, fundamental rights from the context of the Bangladeshi rituals and practice. So I think that in that perspective, not only the figure of Bangladeshi government but the law enforcement agencies, legal perspective, international conventional law. They have to willfully come forward to resolve the matter of the international humanitarian law in the matter of principles of non-refoulement, because principles of non-refoulement, it is not mentioned in the international conventional law, but it is on kind of legal customs which has been followed by the different kinds of stakeholders, more particularly the different kinds of states, for more than hundreds of time. So I think that in the future time, Bangladeshi government, they will provide the international conventional rules, as well as they will provide the refugee conventional statement, more particularly the refugee convention 1950 on article 33, which is deliberately mentioned the principles of non-refoulement, and it has a great impact in achieving the rights of the refugees throughout the countries and throughout the universe. Thank you.